Good morning, everyone. Happy Easter Monday to you. Wow, hasn't a lot changed? 3 weeks ago at this time, I was rushing back from Florida with my trip cut short, trying to get home to safety. And wow, it has changed so much in the last few days. During this time, I've been doing some Skype consultations and some phone consultations. Haven't gone much into the clinic at all. And things seem to be progressing all right at my end. However, I have been talking to my colleagues across the world, in America, Australia, and Asia. There are plenty of opinions floating around, starting with the quality of kits to the quality of death certificates being issued in America. When will the vaccine be available? What else can we do in the meantime? After sending you the questionnaire, I firmly came to the conclusion that it might be a good time for me to come and talk with you all and maybe explore some answers. Well, today, one of the biggest questions that we asked you was about anxiety. Is how are we coping at these times? And you'll be pleased to know that the response has been fairly widely scattered. Although if putting it all together, I would say about 85% of the people were in the mild to fairly anxious category. But 10% of those actually said they were less anxious and doing better. But 5% were very anxious. So we see there is a spectrum of responses that we can see. So amongst the 10% who were very relaxed and happy with the new situation, maybe these people were financially secure. Maybe they're healthy. Maybe they're using their time in more productive ways. They quite enjoyed being in their pajamas, whatever. We are all individuals and we are different. Anxiety is a very complex emotion, and it is in fact really dependent on the amount of the stressor a person feels as compared to that individual's resilience. Now this stressor, which creates the anxiety, has got a few features. The anxiety and the stressor will have a various impact depending upon the novelty of the situation. Well, certainly this virus was something very novel, which we have never come across. The other point is unpredictability. So when we talk unpredictable, we mean where is it going next? Am I likely to get it? Am I going to get it if I go to the supermarket? Am I going to get it if I go to the hospital? The next factor is threat. How big is this threat? Is it just somebody walking 2 meters away from me, spreading it with microparticles? Or is somebody coughing on me? What is the real threat? And finally, it is about what sense of control we have. So people who feel they have a better control of their environment always do better. These are the people who are probably less anxious. They have got themselves into a good routine. They understand their 4 risk factors. Remember, novelty, unpredictability, the feeling of threat, and your sense of control. And by increasing their sense of control around most of these other factors, they have minimized their risk and minimized the stressor in their brains, which means they have less anxiety, they have less sleep-related problems. Okay, let's expand on this a little bit further. Let's say you are stressed and you feel less sense of control. And this could be coming from various factors. It could be pressures of work in an environment which is different. It could come from a different workplace without interacting with colleagues on a face-to-face basis. Or it could just be staff worries. But remember, there is an answer to all of these short-term problems if you were just to sit down and think about it. And in fact, in the last few weeks, people are finding new ways to work. I have been in multiple Skype meetings, which are supposed to be face-to-face conferences when I had to travel to Sydney, but I don't have to, because we've got used to a very efficient Zoom platform, and we don't have to travel. So, after initial experimentation, there is a way a thinking man can get round. Yes, there could be financial pressures. These could be short-term, or they could have long-term impacts. But again, there is a way to work through it, just like there are challenges in business on a day-to-day basis. So it is all about trying to regain control. Okay? Regain control, make good decisions, so that better control follows from better decisions. And this can be done in simple ways. Make sure you're waking up at a time that you always wake up. In fact, try to sleep at a good hour. Get into a proper sleep routine. Being at bed by about 10 p.m. is a good thing to do. Again, doing reasonable amount of movement and exercise, 30 to 45 minutes every day of walking. Now this is something everybody could do at their own pace, for which the most common reason I find not being able to do is, Doc, I don't have the time. Okay, well, that is no longer true, because you can make the time now. If you can't make the time now, you will never make it again. You can do things around the house which you have never done before and which have piled up and which are lying in the background and create a constant nagging sense of worry. And there are a few responses where people are telling me they feel better because they're getting things done. Remember, there is so much news. There is so much social media. It's unending. A really useful tool would be to say dedicate 2 slots of 30 minutes, maybe at the beginning of the day and one at the end of the day, from a reliable source of information, so that you're up to date with what is happening, but you don't have to be up to date with every commentary of what everything is happening around every country in the world. What are the theories of everything? Okay, all that is time which is wrongly spent, and it only generates anxiety, because remember, it creates that uncertainty and confusion. Okay, so those four things are extremely important to think about: the novelty, the unpredictability, the threat, and how we gain sense of control. Finally, we come to a couple of very important points. You can't go past something like this and saying controlling your mind without sitting quietly, thinking, meditating. Okay? So something as simple as what is called 4-7-8 breathing. I would encourage you to sit down for a few minutes every day, legs crossed, arms folded. Close your eyes and think about breathing 4 times to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Breathing in through your nose. Hold it for a count of 7 and then breathe out for a count of 8. Repeating this 4-7-8 breathing technique a few times a day helps to centralize you and calm your mind. So just that one little application that I can tell you about meditation. Besides, there are other apps available on the phone like Headspace, Being Calm, and everything else, which you may have found out by now anyway. It finally brings me to, in case we need medication or supplements, I would really encourage people not to go down the route of thinking about medications. Because if you did all that I told you before and led a good, disciplined day, you would have less anxiety and you would have good sleep. But should you need some help with some natural supplements, there are a few which are specifically known to help. The first one I would say in this list is vitamin B3. Vitamin B3, niacin, more commonly sold as niacinamide because it reduces the flushing that can come with taking plain niacin. Taking this 2 or 3 times a day, around 500 to 1000 milligrams every day in 3 divided doses can be extremely helpful. Taking some L-theanine. Now L-theanine can be available as a powder and you can mix as little as you want or a little bit more. And taking some L-theanine 2 or 3 times a day would be extremely useful. Bedtime, taking an absorbable form of magnesium, probably like a magnesium glycinate, 250 to 500 milligrams is useful. There is yet another nutrient called PEA. PEA is a short form of a rather large molecule. But this molecule is extremely useful because in our brains it acts on the endocannabinoid system, the opioid system, and it helps relaxation by producing what is called the GABA molecule in our nerves. So again, using something like P plus is extremely helpful. A diet of mixed green vegetables is always needed to have an adequate supply of B vitamins. We all know serotonin is extremely useful for relaxation. Serotonin can be obtained in a natural form by eating foodstuffs that are rich in L-tryptophan. Some of the nicest foods with a lot of L-tryptophan would be cashew nuts. I would prefer not roasted in oil cashew nuts, just plain cashew nuts, maybe a fistful of those a day. Some cheese and turkey, these have got high amounts of tryptophan and will let you reduce your anxiety. Finally, a meal with very low processed food and sugars is extremely important, because when you take foods which are rich in sugar, you spike insulin in your system. And when you spike the insulin, which is trying to balance the glucose, you end up with a metabolic distress phenomenon in your system, which can, by producing cortisol, insulin, all these negative hormones, create more anxiety. And hence, it is also important to avoid sweet foods and snacking all the time, because you are going to pick up on your insulin all the time. So eat your main meals, eat them well, make them mixed, make them varied, and you will have a good time. Finally, let's make use of this 4-week period in a positive way. Okay? When you don't have a way out, it is best to accept it and to make the most of it. And certainly, people who are doing really well by making positive changes in their lifestyles, relationships, time with their children and families, are reaping the benefits of it. To the point, some of you told me that you are really loving the life now. Well, in reality, this will not carry on forever. But if you can learn from a little snippet of this type of life and take the good things from it forward and ingrain them in your long-term life after lockdown, we will all be much happier. Wishing you all the best, and my next video we will talk about some other aspects. In the meantime, enjoy your Easter Monday. Bye-bye.